we all skipped. So number 3, one version, x squared over 25 minus 6 equals -2. I don't understand because y'all solved this one, but you didn't solve number 4. They were both square root problems where you just sad map your way out of them. So add 6 to both sides. X squared over 25 equals 4. Multiply by 25 to get rid of the division. I have x squared equals 100. Both of them came out to nice. That might not be your problem, but that was some people's problems. So your problem is probably x squared over 4 minus 11 equals -2. You added 11 to both sides, which would give you x squared over 4 equals 9. Multiplied by 4 to get rid of the 4. Some of you, at this point, you tried to take the square root, which you could if you did it correctly. If you do x squared over 4 equals 9 and you do this, that is not x over 4 equals 3. That's x over 2 equals 3. Remember, if I take the square root of a fraction, everything in the fraction gets the square root, and this is the plus or minus 3. You come back to the same answer. Several people at this point, whenever it was x squared over 4 equals 9, they took the square root of both sides, but they didn't take the square root of the denominator of the fraction, only the top. Which will come back to the same thing. Questions on 1 or 3? Good. Number 4 we talked about yesterday, but I'll run through it again really quickly. 4 times x minus 2 squared equals 8. Again, I'm sad mapping because there's only one x in the equation. Some of you have had so much work for this trying to FOIL it out, and then you really didn't know what to do. But if you FOILed it out and then factored it, you ended up back where you started because that was, okay. So divide by 4. Take the square root. It is a plus or minus because it is a square root, and then add 2. And then the other one. I tried to keep the difficulty level the same for all of them, so if one had a perfect square, the other did. Go ahead. It is simple. So this is what, you actually make a very relevant point, which is something that I say in this class all the time. If you just sit and watch me do problems, it does not help you learn the material. The reason is, I've been doing this a whole lot of years. I won't tell you how old I am, but I've been doing this for a long time. So I know how to do it. So it looks easy when I do it because I know how to do it. You, however, are just learning it. So unless you practice it, you're not going to know where to start or where to go or what, and you get stumped on steps. So that's why your homework and your practice is so important. You just watch somebody play football, you don't learn, right? You got to practice it. You don't get better. Dozier?
No, I watched Aaron Donald.
Plus or minus root 7. Subtract the 1. I got -1 plus or minus square root 7. Unless that's a perfect square there. In this case, it's not 7, it's not a perfect square. I don't need to simplify it down any further. Questions about number 4? Everybody good? Number 5. No? All right. When you have an equation that looks like this, your job is always to get the variables together that go together. So I am going to move the 2t squared over. And I'm also going to move the 5 away. Am I confused if I do that all in one step? Go ahead. Can I what? And that's fine, and then you factored and solved. Is that what you did? Well, actually, it doesn't factor. You could factor a 4 out, but it's not going to. Divide by 4, so t squared equals -1, and we all know that the square root of -1 is nothing more than if you had the other. I'm going to move the t squareds together, and I'm going to move this 7 away because I don't want him on that side anymore. 3t squared minus t squared is 2t squared, and it equals -12. Again, divide. T squared equals -6. So t is, if I take the square root, plus or minus I times the square root of 6. Several people put the plus or minus here. You cannot do that. That tells me that it's I plus the square root of 6 instead of I times the square root of 6. So be very careful where your plus or minus goes. It's going to be very important with quadratic formula Monday too. What's wrong with you? I probably didn't take full credit off for it. Probably put 2 points off on it. Huh? All right, number 6. Some of y'all made number 6 so very difficult. What is the operation in the middle? Subtraction. It is not multiplication. I'm not foiling anything here. 8 minus -11 is 8 plus 11, which is 19. And then I've got -5i minus 4i. -9i. That's it. -3 minus -4. 1. 2i minus -3. What? Oh my gosh. All right, last one. The last one was the hardest one on the paper, but the one that a lot of you got right. Dividing by a complex. Now, this one was the easiest for y'all because we had just done it. Which means you didn't actually learn the other stuff. You just remembered it long enough to do your homework or whatever. You didn't actually learn it. Not in here, though. You have to actually learn in here. Chapter 1 is the fundamental chapter. Everything we learn in chapter 1 comes up in every other chapter to come. But now let's be honest. Did you have to go there? Oh, okay. All right, we're multiplying by what? 3 plus I. Distribute. 18i plus 6i squared. I'm in a FOIL situation on the bottom. 9 plus 3i minus 3i minus I squared. You can if you recognize that that's what happens, but make sure you're very careful because that only happens with conjugates. What are you talking about, Sullivan? It's right there. This is -6. This is positive 1. These middles cancel. I have negative 6 plus 18i over 10. If you left it like that, I took it. If you had it in the other order, I took it. And if you simplified by dividing everybody by 2, I also took it, as promised. It does. But I was very nice and lenient in my... If you had the other version, 2i over 4 plus 3i, so I'm multiplying top and bottom by 4 minus 3i. Distribute up top, I have 8i minus 6i squared over 16 minus 12i plus 12i minus 9i squared. Yeah. The what? Did you answer your own question? Sorry. All right, 6 plus 8i over 25. That was another reason that I took it here also. Well, I told you I would, but it wasn't very fair if some people had to simplify and other people didn't, so I took there. All right, now that you see that, what do you think? Did or didn't? Did. That's okay. All right, let's run through them. Sullivan has said every single one of them. I'm going to sit down for this one because I have a feeling it's just going to be 7. Number 1. All right, let's look at the first page first. First things first. We'll take a break after homework questions, yeah. No break. You think we're breaking too much? All right. First page, front page 1 through 6. Does anybody need number 1? Okay. Stay with me. Correct your homework if you have it. All right. X squared plus 4x plus... I told y'all I felt like this is the hardest lesson. So, all right. Remember your steps. First thing I'm going to do is check to see if I already have a perfect square trinomial, right? Is this a perfect square trinomial the way it sits? Yes, it already is. How do I know that? Perfect squares plus sign and then what? It dances. It square dances. If you take the square root of both ends, multiply and double, it gives you the middle. X times 2 is 2x, and 2x doubled is 4x, so I'm good. So how does it factor? X plus 2 squared. Now I just SAD map. Once you get it factored, it's a SAD map problem. Square root. Well, what's the square root of 49? That's half of it. Plus or minus 7, right? And then I subtract the 2. So this means negative 2 plus or minus 7. So split that up since that's a nice whole number. X could be negative 2 plus 7, or X could be negative 2 minus 7, which is 5, negative 9. You got your signs wrong somewhere.
I didn't do that.
Didn't do what step? Split them up. Make sure you split them up if they're perfect squares like that, because when we get to quadratic formula, it's going to be important too.
I should do this. I went to the X plus 2 equals
No, yeah, you can. If you skip, you talking about y'all skip that? That's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine.
That should have been a positive 7.
I can print you one. Sure. It's coming on the front if you grab it. All right. Does anybody need number 3? Okay. Okay. Is it a perfect square trinomial as it sits? No. Do I have an A that I can divide everything by? No, right? Because it's 1. Everybody with me? Those 2 steps are normally the answers no and no, but I have to check. So now my question is 96. Good C or bad C? Bad. Why is it bad? It doesn't work. It's negative. It's not a perfect square. It doesn't square dance. All of those things are acceptable answers because if it fails any of those, it's a bad C. So I'm going to get rid of it. How do I get rid of it? Because I can't just add it to the other side, right? So now I'm going to have x squared plus 10x. I'm going to leave a little hole here because I'm going to put a good C. I just don't know what it is yet. I'm going to put the 96 over here, and I'm going to leave a hole here too because whatever that good C is, I need to make sure my equation is balanced and I throw it in on both sides. So how do I find this elusive good C? Divide the b by 2 and square it. Now, if b happens to be a fraction already, instead of dividing by 2, I might want to multiply by a half, multiply by the reciprocal. All right, so in this case, 10 over 2 squared is what? 25. I put it here for the good C, but because this is an equation that must stay balanced, I also put it on the other side. Everybody with me? On the left, I factor. How does that factor? X squared equals, what's 96 plus 25? What is it? I spy a perfect square. But even if it wasn't, I could go on. So now I pick up with SADMAP, right? Square root. What's the square root of 121? 11. Plus or minus 11, exactly. Move the 5. Negative 5 plus 11. 6. And then negative 5 minus 11. Yes. Right? Yeah. Second 20. Because it's an equation. I know that I want 25 to be here to make it a perfect square, right? So if I add 25 here, I have to add it over here too. What do you mean? Oh, yes, it factors here. The square root of the first and the square root of the last. Yes, sorry, I wasn't following you. Well, okay, so if I'm an equation and I'm trying to say balance, and I throw 25 over here, to balance my scales back, I have to give this side 25 wrong. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other also. Yes. If you ever add anything to one side, you have to add it to the other side also, despite what's already there. We didn't add 2 in number 1. Because we didn't have to add anything, it was already a perfect square. It's there. And it's not there. If you have to add anything to the equation that's not there already, that's when you do it. But if it's already there, because in number 1, see, it was already there. The 4 was already there. So I didn't have to give it anything. It already had what it needed. Yes. 5. All right, number 5. Number 5 is a little bit different. All right, guys, y'all pay attention. If you already get it, then be quiet because somebody beside you probably doesn't. Okay. Perfect square trinomial, yay or nay? Nay. 3's not, 45's not, but I do have an A that I need to get rid of, right? All right, so let's divide everybody by the leading coefficient. And when we say everybody, we mean everybody. If that 0 was not 0 and it was anything else, it would also get divided. So now I'm at x squared minus 2x minus 1, 5. Does it factor now? Is 15 good or bad? It's not even a perfect square. It's subtracted. It doesn't dance. Get rid of it and move it over here. Okay? X squared minus 2x. Leave a hole. 15. Leave a hole. The holes help because you'll forget to add it to one side. If you don't put the hole, you don't have to put the hole. It's an easy one. You're talking about you don't want to come down here and do this? Well, you're going to have to show me where you add it to both sides. So you're going to have to show that. Wyatt Thompson, say that again.
What is 1 times 1, Wyatt? Oh, exactly.
Define perfect square.
Number times itself.
1 is a perfect square.
Right. 5 and 11 because I didn't. It was the same thing. The 1 kept going there.
Okay, but in all seriousness, the definition of perfect square is to multiply by itself to get that value. So, what times what? Same number equals 1. Yes. Wait. Well, that's what I did. What are you asking me? Can you omit? All right, how does it factor? Sullivan, how does it factor? Okay. How do you factor the left side? X squared minus 2x equals 1. What was the whole reason we did this? Why did we go through all this trouble of finding this? We have to so that it makes a what? Trinomial. And we want it to be perfect square trinomial because then it factors easily, right? How does it factor? You know this. You can do it, Solly, you can do it.
You can do it.
All right, look. The square root of the first one.
Oh, it's going to be x minus 1.
Yes, squared.
And then you're going to want to square root of 1. So you have 4.
All right, stay with me, stay with me.
X minus 1 equals 4.
There you go, Wyatt. Plus or minus 4, right? And now add 1.
And then you do x.
Say it again. It follows the first sign.
X equals 3.
Okay, so 1 minus 4 would be negative 3, or
I'm sorry.
why? Because everybody used the box I already bought, and I haven't bought any more. Do you need some? Row 7. All right. Shh, shh, shh. Here's where the rubber meets the road with completing the square. Because gross. Okay. Is it a perfect square trinomial? Why is it not?
But that's a negative story.
That is a -3. What do I do now?
No, you divide.
Divide by 2. I need to divide everything by 2, right? Oh, wait, what? Why? Can't have an A that's anything but 1. That's okay, as long as you eventually divided it by that 2 before you complete this. Yeah. Yeah. Because you have to do the square root of the, when you factor a perfect square trinomial, you have to do the square root of the first term. 2 doesn't have a square root.
I don't know if I did it right, but I'm going to see if I can write it.
Keep your fractions. Keep your fractions. Everybody hears me. Keep your fractions. Because fractions are friends. Okay.
Decimals are precise.
Fractions are our friends.
Decimals are precise.
Emma, good or bad C?
Bad. Why? It's half 3 squared 8.
It doesn't dance. There you go. You had 3 different things you can dance. It doesn't dance. All right, so it's bad. What am I going to do with it? Add it to the other side. So I have x squared minus 1x. 1/2 x, I'm sorry. Leave a hole. And leave a hole. I need a hole in the equation. Okay. All right, let's okay. Let's try. I can't give all my good jokes at one time. I have to save some. So just wait. There's more coming. I need a good C. How did you do that? What'd you do? Because this, I had a lot of questions about this yesterday. 1/2, instead of dividing by 2, that's right. Nope. Why'd you multiply by 1/2? Okay, so it's b over 2, right? Because b is a fraction, instead of dividing by 2, I multiply by the reciprocal of 2. I multiply by 1/2. Half?
I got 1/16.
What's 1/2 of a half? If you take a pizza and you cut it in half and you get 1/2 of a half, how much pizza do you have? A fourth of the pizza. What do you mean, how does it add up to 1?
Yes, sir.
Why can't you split them? Why can't you? No, I need y'all to ask me questions about this and where you're confused. If C was what? You're talking about how does the square dance if I put it in there? What's the square root of 1/16? 1/4. You do the square at the top and square at the bottom, right? 1/4 times x. And now what's 1/4 double? It works every time. I promise you it'll work every time. Without fail. Okay. The left side should be an easy factor for you, okay? Because square roots and everything else. So let's go and do that, but then we'll talk about the fractions for a minute. Because if I had to guess, you're hung up on the 7th and 8th grade fraction operations here on the right-hand side. All right. X, first sign, square root of what's the square root of 1/16? 1/4 squared equals. Now, when you add fractions, you have to have the same bottom, right? You get the bottoms to look exactly the same, and then you just combine the numerators over that same denominator. So my question is, How can I make these both look the same? Okay, I can multiply this one by 8 and it becomes 16, right? But if I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the top. So this is 24 over 16 plus 1 over 16, which is, here's why fractions are our friends here. What do you notice about those two numbers in that fraction? They're perfect squares, and I'm getting ready to take the square root. How nice. So what do you need to multiply this bottom to make it look like this bottom? All right, now all the steps follow the same, right? What's the square root of 25/16? 5/4, but not just 5/4, but plus or minus 5/4. Add the 1/4 to both sides. That's okay. Did y'all get it right? Good.
Like, remember that stuff we did at the beginning where we took out a number?
She okay? Okay. 6/4. Where found what? Yeah.
By like taking a number out. You can look through, you scribbling it out. Like took out a number and it left like.
These will probably, if I tell you to put the square, it'll probably go. It could though. Actually, this one could factor if you had everything in the side.
My answer was actually.
This is one of the only times.
Wow, so I did do it right.
Okay, no.
I didn't do it right, but I got.
Okay, right. This is the only chapter, so I'm not that teacher that says you do it my way or no way. Because this is how I do it, but this is the only chapter that's an exception. I want to make sure you can follow. And if I gave you ones that you couldn't do anything but complete the square, they'd be so hard. So I give you ones that are factorable because the answer that you're complete square.
So.
But I need to make sure you can complete. If that makes sense. Golly. I said all that and you're like, yes, I got it right. We factored it and solved it. Remember, these are all methods of getting to the same answer. But we're not supposed to be doing factoring. Okay. Number 9. Yep. All right, I'm going to, do I get up? Does it work? Does it factor? No, even though 4 is a perfect square, and you might be inclined to say, yes, it's a perfect square trinomial, it is indeed not a perfect square trinomial. So move this, well, that's exactly, it doesn't square dance. That's exactly right. So move it. Make your equation holy. Good? All right. What do you mean I didn't do anything? Yes. So 8 over 2 squared, which is 16 on both sides. Plug the holes. So on the left, I have x minus 4 squared equals 12, and now I'm ready to solve. So square root both sides. Now I have to remember those properties of square roots because I can break 4 down. I can break 12 down into what and what? 4 and 3, that's right. Square root of 4 times the square root of 3, which is 2 root 3, with the plus or minus in front. Because if you don't do the plus or minus, you only have one answer and not two. This one crosses the x-axis in 2 places. And then if I add 4 to both sides, I have 4 plus or minus 2 root 3. And I can leave that there since there's a radical hook to it. I can't combine. Don't combine those numbers in front. They don't combine. You can't do that. You can't do that because this is like, think if you had 4 plus 2x. You couldn't make that 6x because you wanted to. This has got a square root of 3 on it, so you can't combine it. Yeah. Say again? If you graph x squared minus 8x plus 4, it would cross everything. I don't know. I don't know what it comes out to be as a decimal.
How would you, if you wanted to get, how would you do it?
Now, if you graph and you found the root, it's not going to give you the exact value. But I can do 2 times the square root of 3. I get 3.4641, whatever it is. And then plus 4, 7.464. If I graph that and I second trace 0, I should get one of them. And it would. Graphing from the graph. Some of you might have basic calculators, maybe the 89 would or something like that.
Well, these things go. What's the newest one?
I don't know. All right, are we feeling better? A lot better? Okay. Can you handle x squared plus 2x plus 37? Good or bad? Bad. Move it. Make it holy. Probably. I probably will. Okay, good C. What's the good C? Is 1 a perfect square? Yes, it is. Indeed it is. Oh, I see why you wanted this one. All right, so I got x plus 1 squared equals negative 36. What is the square root of negative 36? Plus or minus 6i. So I got x plus 1 equals plus or minus 6i. So now when I move that 1 over, I cannot combine it because this one has an I. This one's just a real number. And I stop right there. All right, Ellen, what's wrong?